Hey, what's up guys? It's Technical Tim here, and I want to thank everyone so much who's been liking all my videos and subscribing to the channel. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, I'd appreciate it if you did. And I'm here to recap UFC 238, and if you don't follow me all that often on these recap videos, all I do is I go through each card, I start from the bottom, work my way to the top, and I talk about the cards kind of from a betting and technical perspective, and I focus on what I was thinking before the fight and then what I was thinking after the fight. And just performance on the night, I think it was kind of a whatever night. I had some good picks, I had some bad picks, but I had some kind of ace in the hole picks that were really good, that I think if you have a lot of those in events, you're going to limit your events of being not profitable and losing big. Like if you look through my betting record this year, the lowest amount of units I've lost in an event is like 5, and so I don't give away units all that often. So I think even though we didn't like crush tonight, we won about I think we won like a fraction of a unit, like a half unit or something. But we like set ourselves up good with a lot of solid picks, and then we kind of made maybe not the best picks, and then we kind of, some stuff happened that maybe was a little bit unforeseeable. So it's kind of whatever. Like we're still in June, we're still up, I think like 5 units this month, and we're setting ourselves up to have a profitable month. So it's all good. We didn't lose anything tonight, so I'm cool with that. But I'll kind of give a letter grade after I go through the card on how I did. But I always try to be super objective during these videos. Like I try to not be too hard on myself on some things, but I try to be hard on myself on others. So let's go through it. Chookagian and Calderwood. This was I stayed away. I had a lot of good stayaways on this event though. But I stayed away here, and I thought Calderwood actually won, to be quite honest with. Oh, I thought it was close though. I thought I could have gone to Chookagian as well. But Calderwood won the striking battle, and she had more takedowns. Like she landed 30 more strikes, but I know it scored round by round, but I thought round 3 was Calderwood. So 30-27 for Chookagian was crazy, I thought. But I said to stay away because fights like this, like close striking fights, can kind of just have random decisions, like with shit just happening. So it was a good layoff, so I'm happy with that. Wineland and Popoff. I said Wineland before. In my final thoughts, I mentioned it was either Wineland or stay away here. We decided to stay away, so it can be frustrating when our lean like Wineland ended up winning. But I tend to play the UFC veterans in these matchups unless if they don't have a lot of depth to their game. And Wineland, even though he shot for a takedown in this fight, give me 1 minute. Even though he shot for some takedowns in this fight, he kind of he mostly just will strike. And Popoff was competitive at moments. There's like a 2 or 3 minute window at the end of the first round and kind of going at the beginning of the second where Popoff started landing a lot of low kicks and was kind of hurting Wineland in a way. And so I thought it was maybe going to be a pivot point, but Wineland hung tough and ended up getting the finish. And we stayed away, but I usually just the striking fights, we've stayed away from 2 of these fights recently, and one of them Arlene won, and then one of them Arlene didn't win, and that was Alves Staropoli, where it was kind of a new fighter coming in versus a UFC veteran with not much depth to their game like Alves, and Wineland's kind of the same way. So if you look, even though Wineland won, we made a good layoff on the previous one, so on these type of fights, we're kind of just even, which is fine. So, not like a huge lost opportunity. So I'm fine with the layoff. In hindsight, it's always easy to judge a little bit, but I think before the fight, I think it was a fine layoff, so I'm not mad about that. Here was a bad pick, but it was only a unit, and it was kind of it was a little random, but I do think I maybe underestimated a few things in this fight, and that's Lewis and Stewart. Lewis threw a lot less than he usually does, but I think what I probably got wrong on this play, I only played a unit, so it was a minor play, so I'm not too upset about this play because I properly allocated the unit, because as I said in my final thoughts video, I did think Stewart had a shot here. I did think it was kind of KO or bust, but Lewis kind of just seemed to get scared off, and I think the aggression and just the KO threat of Stewart made Lewis kind of just hesitant to really get a striking volume game going. Like, he more so just wanted to push him up against the cage and kind of do some things from there. But Stewart has underrated wrestling, and I've said that for a while now. Shabazian's just a really good wrestler, FYI for you guys. But yeah, so I kind of thought, I kind of think like maybe I underestimated the power and aggressiveness of Stewart to make Lewis hesitant. But I'm not too, like, I'm not going to beat myself up over that pick. Like, usually Lewis does throw more, and it's kind of like, whatever. He kind of got a little scared, all that, a little bit, so it's like, I don't really care. Zhao on Yan and Angela Hill. We played Yan here. This was a fight where, like, you guys know me. I try not to be, like, an annoying dude on some of these videos and kind of complain about just, like, random stuff and give hot takes. But the commentary was bad on this fight, and I think they had an off night. Like, I try not to be, like, a hater for a lot of things, just not my personality, but I felt like in the third round particularly, Rogan has a tendency to, like, be a narrative-based commentator, and what I mean, it's fine for, like, casual fans and stuff, but what I mean by that is he'll kind of, like, see someone have some random success in a moment in a round, and then he'll kind of just, like, keep talking about how good that fighter's looking and how they're just, like, looking fantastic and how they've really turned the fight around. But, like, and he'll kind of, like, neglect what the other fighters has done since that first moment of the fighter he's backing had. And I felt like Hill had like a striking exchange where she, like, landed, and then Yan was, like, landing after that, and Rogan will just kind of, like, go with Hill. And he doesn't just do that for Hill. He does that in a lot of fights, but, like, I'm not hating. I like Rogan. I like Joe Rogan as a guy. I do think he's more of, like, a casual type of he's kind of made for the casual fans, his commentating style, because he's, like, a fun, likable, nice guy. But I think he kind of needs to, like, be aware that he does that sometimes. But I'm not going to tell people how to live. It's whatever. But I do think that round 3, what I'm saying is what I saw. I know I had Yan, but I'm still going to try to be objective. I thought Hill round one. I don't think that submission attempt was as close as, like, the commentators were making it out, because to get that triangle, Angela has to push the head all the way down and get the proper angle, and she wasn't doing that until, like, a second left. But I still gave her round 1. Round 2 was all Yan. And round 3, like, what I thought about round 3 was, I thought Yan, it was like an 80-20 round for her. I thought she was just outlanding her the whole time, and then the commentators were doing that, so I was, like, wondering if I was being biased or not. Then I looked at the striking numbers, and Yan landed, like, 18 more strikes, so, like, I thought the numbers kind of backed me up too. And it's funny, if you go to MMAdecisions.com, it's like 60-40 for Yan, and I think they were even influenced a little bit. Like, I just don't think Hill won that third round. Am I being crazy? I don't know. Comment below. Like, tell me how you scored that fight. I don't know if I'm being, like, if I have, like, biased judging because I backed Yan. But, I mean, I backed Lewis, and I thought Stewart clearly won 30-27. So, like, I don't know. I don't know. I think I'm talking way too much about this fight. But another thing I do want to point out, I do think Yan was probably justified at her line. I don't think this was a great play, though, even though he won. I do think she should have been the favorite there, though, because if you look minute by minute, it kind of reminds me of, like, she outstruck Hill by, like, 38 strikes throughout the fight. And if you look, like, minute by minute, she was pretty much, the most success she had was the first 3 minutes of round 1. And because Hill kind of had success at the end of that round with that submission attempt, Hill stole the round. So it was kind of like the minute by minute game. I thought Yan won about 11 and a half to 12 minutes of this fight. But because it's scored by rounds, it kind of reminds me of Clark Stosich, where I thought Clark was the better minute winner. But because of, like, the sequencing of events that happened in the round, it made the fight a lot closer. And that's kind of what sucks about being a bettor, is, like, you can't always predict who's going to win the rounds. You really can only predict who's going to win the minutes, and generally the minute winner wins the rounds, but shit can happen to swing those rounds. So that's what I thought. I thought Yan was, like, the clear minute winner here, and Hill kind of just, like, benefited towards the end of the round in round 1. But overall, not a great play on Jan, but it was like fine. I thought it was whatever. That now going on to a really good play, Calvin Kattar. I will say, even though I didn't have all the best reads tonight, my grappling reads were fucking on point. Like every single fight. Not trying to toot my own horn here because I made some mistakes in other fights, absolutely. But my grappling reads were something I was really happy with. And usually, if you guys know me, that's kind of where I thrive. But Kattar and Lamas, like I had mentioned in my Final Thoughts video, Lamas does a really good job with his wrestling when he can create the scrambles. And that's usually like, if you kind of start clinching up with him or something, that's whenever he can do well. He's not the best at creating his own takedown attempts, especially against straight punchers. Like Holloway pretty much gave the blueprint to Kattar of just throwing straight punches and disengaging on the takedown attempts. And I had liked, you really just need first layer TDD to play a disengage game. And that's what Kattar did. And, yeah, he pretty much dominated, and I do regret, and I'm not saying this in hindsight, I do regret not throwing more on Kattar. I threw a couple units, he was like my third biggest play of the night, but I was like like yesterday I was just like really confident in him, and I thought about playing more and I ended up not doing it, so that was kind of my regret on that, but good read. And when you have fights like this in your night, even when you're not on your A game, because we weren't on our A game last night, even though we didn't lose, we didn't win either. And even though we weren't on our A game, we still had, because we consistently just really think about these fights and make well-reasoned decisions. When you have fights like this kind of like interlaced throughout events, you're not going to have big losing events. And that's why we've been profitable lately. So, because even whenever we're not on our A game, we're still making picks that kind of just make us not lose. So, good play on Kattar. Kattar is an amazing jab and just ate Lamas up with a straight punch. That was a beautiful finish. Grasso and Carolina. If you guys didn't buy my picks, I ended up playing this fight parlayed with Jan and Hill to go to decision. And the reason I did that, even though Hill actually had a little bit of a submission attempt, is all four of these ladies don't really go for subs. And usually the biggest threat for women's MMA fights to not go the distance is submissions or dominant positions on the ground. It's really not standing KOs. And I figured all four of these ladies like to strike. They're not heavy hitters. And so I parlayed them up. And so like them just getting like a random knockout is low percentage. And they really don't happen much in women's MMA. I know Valentina did it, but that's kind of an outlier. And generally those don't happen. So we cashed on parlaying those going to decision. So that was something we did hit. And I thought that was a smart play. But I'm glad I didn't play Carolina. This was another good layoff because, like I said, women's striking fights can just kind of be random, and they're sometimes hard to predict. And Grasso's hands look good, and I'm glad we stayed away. I feel bad for Carolina because I like Carolina a lot, and it looks like she's kind of on the decline. Next fight, Aljamain and Munoz. I had a great grappling read here. I stayed away from this fight. I knew Aljamain wasn't going to get that wrestling going, and so because I knew that, the reason I stayed away is I thought Munoz would give Sterling a lot of issues on the feet. But remember I said, I don't always read Sterling striking that well. So it's like, he kind of always outperforms my expectations, is what I think I'm trying to say. And he kind of did here. And I thought Munoz had if Munoz went to those he kind of went to the well and landed those calf kicks more and kind of focused on those more, I think he could have won. I think he could have had more success in this fight, but I thought Aljamain was the rightful winner here. And yeah, don't have much else to say. I do think people who were on Aljamain, I saw a lot of people max betting him, got the grappling reads wrong, because I saw a lot of predictions talking about how Aljamain would out grapple him, and I didn't see that on tape. But he outperformed my striking expectations, like he kind of always does, so it was a good stay away by me. Suarez and Ansaroff, this was one of my best reads of the night, because everyone was picking Ansaroff to kind of get destroyed. And I mentioned she has really good takedown defense, good guard retention. She pushes up against the quads really well, using that knee shield to kind of get back up. And she did a good job, man. And it's funny because I told you all the sharps were on Nina, and they were for rightful reasons, because she kind of looked like the value side in that fight. But what I told them is I I told them not to bet Nina, even though they ended up doing it anyway. And I don't know all the sharps. I just know a couple who are kind of in the crowd in Vegas who are good at MMA betting, who are like legit sharps. And I told them that they were underestimating that sweep single leg of Suarez, because once she gets it, Nina can't circle off left or right in the middle of the cage to get away from the fence. And whenever she gets that sweep single, I said it's going to give her the takedowns early. And I was like, Nina will probably be harder to take down later because she's going to make Suarez work for them. And I said like, Tatiana's going to take the first 2 rounds clearly, and then I could see it kind of getting competitive in the later half of the fight. And that's kind of what I thought. So even though it was 29-28, I still think Suarez wins those first couple rounds the majority of the time. So I still think like she was a rightful favorite. The line should have been a little closer, but I didn't take a shot at Nina just because I kind of saw that on tape. But I understood why people were taking a shot at her too. But we played the over 1.5. That's what I focused on because I wanted to hit something that I thought was kind of a lock. And I thought the over 1.5 was a lock all day because I think Suarez's submissions are a little overblown and a little overrated. I still think her wrestling's awesome though. And I think Nina kind of just has good guard retention, good get-up ability, good takedown defense. And I just thought she was going to be scrappy and making Suarez work throughout the fight. So that was kind of easy money on that over. So I'm glad that hit. And I do want to say, I have very strong opinions on Suarez Andrade. I'm not going to tell you guys. I'm not going to say anything now. But I think I know who's going to win that fight, and I'm very confident in it. I know Suarez's game. It's going to be interesting to see what those odds are. So I'll just leave it at that. Evenoff and Tuivasa, we played Evenoff here, so this was a good play. Yeah, like the straight left I talked about on my Final Thoughts video, it was there all night for Tuivasa, and because for Evenoff, because Tuivasa just has no defense when he comes in and he runs into counters. So Evenoff just kind of dominated him there. And Evenoff has one of the best chins at heavyweight, in my opinion. I know he got staggered at one point, but that guy's chin, he's so durable, man. So I figured we had kind of the more durable fighter, which I think that kind of played out, and the more skilled fighter. And I talked about how Tuivasa likes to clinch up against the cage a lot, and that kind of will give Evenoff, even though Evenoff doesn't like to wrestle all that often, it gives him opportunities to start creating grappling. And what he did a snap down. So snap down is whenever you kind of will have like a club on the top of the head and maybe like an overhook on the arm, and you snap them down, and then he would turn it into a guillotine. And he almost subbed Tuivasa with that. So he just had a lot of advantages, so that was a good play by us. So kind of like that play, the Suarez fight with the over and Cater, we had some awesome reads, and they played out well. And so even though some other fights we didn't have the best reads, which we'll kind of get to, we had enough good reads to kind of save us from not losing. And that's going to give us a profitable month this month. So then Peter Yan, Rivera. Rivera was the value side here. I had Yan in a small, like 1 unit parlay, nothing big. I wasn't too enthusiastic about it, but Rivera had a really good game plan. I think he was the value side. He landed a lot of strong leg kicks, and he did a good job at moving his head a lot, not keeping it on the center line, and Yan couldn't get his boxing combinations going because of that. So Rivera fought really well. He's just a little chinny, and he got knocked down at the end of rounds to kind of fuck him. So, people who were on Rivera, I give them props because I didn't see him making it that close, and he did a good job. So, Cerrone Ferguson, I had a small play on Donald. I didn't think he would wilt due to pressure, but I've never bet against Tony Ferguson, and I will be betting him if he ever fights Khabib because I think he finishes Khabib. But I will max bet Ferguson against Khabib. But I've never seen Donald slow down, and I was kind of just putting a lot of stock in Donald's own cardio as well. And I didn't think Tony would just be able to like do what he does to everyone else, but I was just wrong. And Tony, I want science experiments done on that guy. I don't understand how he's human because he breaks everybody. So fun fight. And Ferguson's a fucking man. That's all I have to say about that. I didn't even really care about that fight from a betting perspective. Once it kind of happened, I was just excited to watch it. Even my girlfriend who she'll watch a little bit of MMA, but she's not she likes some fights here and there, but she loves watching Tony Ferguson, and I understand why. But she loved that fight. Valentina Jessica I had the fight starts around 3, and what are you gonna do? Just the grappling, I thought I was scrappy enough to kind of survive, and that's why I didn't think it would finish, and that kind of played out. Even though Valentina had like a Kimura attempt, she kind of landed from side control. She landed in side control off a body lock takedown, so it was kind of like she didn't like pass I's guard from like a traditional Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu sense. She kind of just got there, and I thought I was going to survive on the ground. And I think the fact that Valentina had that deep of a sub and I still kind of rolled out and toughed it out fine is she was probably going to survive down there. But like she just got head kick KO'd. And Valentina, I's never been knocked out, and Valentina doesn't really one punch KO or one strike KO people all that often. So I'm not mad about that play. There's some other picks that I didn't love, but like Lewis I didn't love. But this one, I'm not mad about. It's just like, I got MMA'd in this fight. I think that's all that happened. Like a one strike, head kick KO. What you gonna do? And then the last fight, Cejudo and Moraes. I picked Moraes here, and then I lost here. Ended up being like I ended up winning like a half unit on the night only because of it. I was up kind of big going into this fight, and then this fight kind of took away my profits. But I guess I try not to start shit or anything, but I was having conversations with people on Twitter, and like if you pick Cejudo and won, like I'm happy for you guys, but whatever other people, I'll leave it at this, whatever other people saw on tape about like Cejudo being able to kind of gas Marlon or whatever, if they saw something, props to them. I just didn't see it. Like, I had never seen Marlon really slow down, and I had never really seen Cejudo, like I would have assumed Cejudo probably had the better cardio. I just wouldn't have assumed Marlon to shut down in round 2 like that, because the first 8 minutes of the fight was going the way I expected. Marlon was kind of dominating him with kicks, and, like, Marlon just kind of, like, shut down in round 2, so I don't really know what to think about the pick. I want to know your guys' comments. Like, I'm not even mad about this pick, and I don't even know what to think because I don't really get what happened. But I rewatched the fight, and this is what I think happened in the fight. And I rewatched it and did my due diligence. You guys can look at it too, but a minute 40 seconds left in round 2, Marlon got hit by a straight right from Cejudo on the outside, and it hurt him. After that, Marlon's legs weren't there anymore, and he was getting hit with pretty much everything Cejudo threw. And a lot of people were saying, like, Cejudo put a pace on Marlon, and that's why he won, but I don't think that's what happened. I'm not, like, being argumentative. I'm just, like I went and watched, and I think what happened was, I just think people didn't rewatch the fight. I think what happened was Cejudo landed that punch, because before that, he had only landed 6 of 34 strikes. So, like, he didn't put a pace on at that point. He just didn't. But he landed that punch, and Marlon wasn't really right. And then Cejudo went after him and went crazy and threw a ton of strikes. And so, like, that's when he put the pace on once Marlon got hurt. I don't think he put a pace on that gassed Marlon out. I think what happened was Cejudo landed something big, and then Marlon was kind of like done and never recovered, and he was just like, he was just disoriented and not there anymore. And he was kind of fighting on autopilot, and then he would just swing hooks after that because he just kind of wasn't there anymore. And he was just kind of like going into defensive mode of trying to survive and then throwing back because Cejudo was being aggressive, and I don't think he was totally there. I think that's what happened. So I think what happened was, I think Cejudo just landed a big shot and kind of changed the course of the fight. That's what I think happened. So go watch that. Like, so people are going to comment and kind of think of what they thought happened, like, and all that. But make sure you just watch that second round at a minute 40 or a minute 40 left in the second round. I think that's when everything happened, because the 8 minutes before that, Cejudo wasn't really putting on a pace at all, and he was just kind of getting kicked. And so I don't know. A lot of people, lot of people had a lot of opinions on this fight. Like people who back Cejudo said Marlon like always slows down, but I just didn't see that on tape. But maybe they saw something I didn't see. But it kind of is what it is. I think overall my opinions on this, I think the fight was going the way I suspected for like 8 minutes, and I think Cejudo just landed a big shot that changed the course of the fight. And yeah, and I think that's kind of it. So like I'm kind of like whatever about it. But one thing I do want to say about Cejudo is I do think some things, I want to give him his props, just because he just beat DJ, TJ, and Marlon all in a row, which is insane. He also continuously outperforms my expectations. Not that I've been betting against him all this time, but he just kind of like, I don't always expect him to win, and he just kind of keeps winning. But one thing I want to say about him, he's also extremely durable. But I think, like, I don't talk about intangibles all that much because I don't think they always matter. I think it's hard to measure them as better, so you have to focus on things you can measure. But one thing I want to say about Cejudo, just to kind of end with a cool little story about Cejudo, is you guys know me, I follow wrestling a lot. And I was I in high school? No. I think I was a freshman in college, and it was the 2008 Olympics. And, Cejudo at that time, so like each year, it's actually going on right now, but each year for wrestling, the big tournament is the World Championships. But on an Olympic year, there's not a World Championships, and the Olympics takes the place of the World Championships. So those are like the big tournament. You want like the Olympic, because it's the Olympics, that's kind of like, there's more stock to it, but really a World Championships is the equivalent to an Olympics as far as like a meritocracy thing goes, because you beat all the people who would have been in the Olympics. But it's like kind of the same tournament. And if you're in the US, or for like any country, I know how it works in the US. In the US, you have to win the US tournament. It's called the US trial. They call it the World Team Trials to make the World Team, or the US Team Trials. And so essentially, the World Team Trials are going on right now. A thing called Final X was going on yesterday, and it's kind of everyone qualifying for the Olympics. And Cejudo in 2008, when he was trying to make the Olympic team as like a 21-year-old, like he wasn't even supposed to really like even win at the World Team Trial or the Olympic Team Trials. Like he was, and people were like upset that he won because they didn't think he had a chance to medal. And like a lot of the US team, a lot of just like the fans who watch US wrestling want us to they usually want our best wrestler to win that tournament, so we have the best shot of doing well at the Olympics, if that makes sense. So like if someone wins by upset, we're like, they'll be like, fuck, person X, they weren't the best wrestler in the US, even though they ended up having a good tournament and won, they're not going to do as well in the Olympics as like this person. And that's kind of what was going on with Cejudo, right? And so he was like ranked low. He wrestled the 121-pound weight class in the freestyle. And he went into that tournament, and essentially it's kind of like a freestyle rules change all the time, but there's essentially 3 mini matches that you have, or 3 mini periods that you have in freestyle. And at that time, he had lost the first match. So if you win, like, it's like 2 out of 3. If you win the first 2, you're good. And he had lost the first match in his first, against his first 3 opponents. So in the round of 16, he lost his first match. The quarterfinals lost his first match, and the semifinals to make the finals, he lost his first match. And he kept coming back, and he won the next 2 periods in all of 3 of those matches, which is like insane. And he beat this guy. I'm forgetting his name. In the first round, it was like, this guy was like a legit proven, like, won the world championships, like, got silver at world championships, like, multiple world championships. So this guy showed, like, consistency in tournaments, where Cejudo was kind of a flash in the pan. He'd never really done anything at world championships or anything. Like, he just kind of made the Olympic team, and then just, like, on the bright lights, he just did really well and just performed really well. So he beat that guy in the first round, and then when he got to the finals, he wrestled this Japanese guy, and he actually won both of those periods in like a close match. But I'm just saying, like, I guess what I'm saying is he always kind of outperforms expectations, and he's just the ultimate competitor. Like they always talk about how like wrestlers are just crazy, like tough, and Cejudo is like even more than that because he's kind of a league in his own in even in wrestling. So like, yeah, like his Olympic gold medal that he won, he was not expected to win. And he just like kept coming from behind and beating opponents that honestly were probably better than him at wrestling. So, yeah, so I just wanted to end on that to give Cejudo props because people overlook him a lot and he kind of just keeps winning. So you got to give him props. I'm usually a statistics guy and kind of like a tangible guy and like focus on things I can measure, but every now and then you'll get like an ultimate competitor who will prove you wrong on those type of things. So I just wanted to give Cejudo some props there. But sorry for that rant, but I know Cejudo is kind of getting popular and I thought it would be cool if you guys actually knew his like gold medal story. So anyway, not a bad event. Won like a half a unit. Like it was pretty much a wash. It was kind of whatever. But we're still having a good month, and we're gonna continue to make good decisions, and hopefully we have a profitable month in the end, and we're set up for that. So I'll send the next card is in 2 weeks. It's Moicano versus Korean Zombie. The only play I have so far is Anderson Dos Santos, and I got him at plus 230, and I tweeted about that the line was going to get smashed. He's now plus 125. It's the only play I have so far, but I'm eyeing some fights, and I'll be sending out videos throughout the week. And if you guys know me on off weeks, I'll sometimes do like other random videos, like technique videos and shit like that. If there's anything you want talked about, comment below. So thanks so much, guys. Bye.